Guys, it's Brian with the Turpicanic brand. Today I want to talk to you about the most common reasons why after you mow the grass, like you see behind me, it looks brown. During the spring, summer, and fall, there are predominantly 5 main reasons why this happens. It's very common all across the country, no matter what grass type you have. Let's talk about all 5 first. I want to talk about the first 2. The first 2 are nearly forgettable. I have to mention them, so I'm going to be incredibly brief. If you're not getting enough water on your lawn, either from the sky or from the irrigation, or you're watering it poorly, then when you cut the grass, you might be seeing more of the drought-stressed grass that is in your lawn that doesn't have the same vibrant green that some of the more established or more mature or more drought-tolerant grasses have in your lawn. I have an entire guide to watering your lawn with less water and keeping your lawn green. It's on the Turpicanic website. I've linked to it below. Take a look at that if you think that's your problem. For those of you who have a lot of bare dirt in your lawn, in between potentially tufts or areas of grass, every time you mow the grass, then those dirt areas don't change. So proportionally, they do look larger and more substantial than they did before you cut the grass. If you happen to have too much bare dirt showing, then the solution to that problem is either extra fertilizer, extra grass seed, or a combination of the two. Typically, this is going to be done in the spring and fall for cool season grasses, better in the fall. And for warm season grasses, this is going to be done towards the end of spring. And seed isn't always your best option for warm season grasses. I have guides to seeding and fertilizing also linked in the description below. Those two are the main options that people think of, so they're the most obvious, and those are the ones that I don't want to spend much time on in this video. The other 3 main reasons why your grass might start looking brown after you mow it could be one of 3 completely different problems. I got a solution for all 3 of those problems. Now have a look here at my grass. This is my front yard, my lawn. It is actually a very nice front yard. It's a nice lawn. But I just mowed it and it's got a tinge of brown through the whole thing. And the reason for that could be old debris that has collected on the soil below the leaf canopy of the grass. So when we cut the grass down low, any debris from the previous mows or from the previous seasons that's still on the lawn have browned out because it's not living material. So when you cut your grass down, more of that old material is visible. Over here in my side yard is a good illustration. Everything looks really nice, but I haven't mowed it in a few days. If I mow it down really low, look what can happen. As we get in close and we look straight down at it, you see all the brown dead material in there? That's grass that died over the winter or the early parts of spring, and it could be old grass clippings that were left on the ground. So if I were to cut all of the green leaves off of the top, you're gonna see way more of this brown underneath. The way that you get rid of that, or one of the easy ways to get rid of that, is to grab yourself one of these little machines. This thing, I don't know, there's many brands that make these. They commonly go by the name Scarifier or Power Rake or Dethatcher. This one is a Greenworks dethatcher. I've obviously owned it for years. I've used it for a long time. I mean, we got full on like rust going on here, but the thing works like a champ. What's important to note here is we want flexible tines underneath. That's what makes it like a rake or a power rake. Of course, you could just take a regular garden rake to your lawn and scratch everything up and try to remove as much material as possible. But this just makes it way easier. Plus, you're going to get a lot more out of it than if you used a regular garden rake. Let me show you what happens when I run it very briefly over a portion of that lawn. Now here, I picked up a lot of brown material. There's some green stuff in there, but a lot of the brown material is gone. The more brown material you have in your lawn, and the deeper you setting, right now I've got this set on the highest setting possible, the deeper you go, the more it's gonna dig down into that layer of debris, pulling up all of the brown stuff. Now with that said, I don't really wanna dig deep into that area because that is a brand new area that I've been babying and I don't want to disturb it with an electric dethatcher. But this area right here, I'm gonna run the dethatcher over the entire thing, power rake it as aggressively as I can to get as much of the brown out of there. Now incrementally, systematically, you can go through your entire lawn with one of these machines. You're picking up You're picking up a lot of dead material, a lot of grass that has laid over. You're pulling out a lot of the stuff that makes your lawn look a little bit more dingy after you mow it. Ironically, after you mow it, and after you use this power rake, the easiest way to pick up all of this debris is to grab your mower again, make sure your bagger is on, and you just use a mower like a vacuum. Now, by the time you get through your entire lawn, you're gonna have a lot of material in the bag. That was just a tiny spot. If I open up my bag and see what it sucked up, we've got a lot of grass debris, both green and brown, that was just sitting there on the lawn. Perhaps that demonstration wasn't very impressive because I don't have a lot of dead debris sitting on this lawn. The reason why this lawn looks a little bit dingy and brown after I've cut it is not because of surface debris sitting underneath the leaf canopy. One of the other main culprits to a brown, dingy looking lawn when you cut it shorter is because of the stemminess factor of your grass. Not every grass is leafy all the way up and down. There are a lot of grasses that have really thick, kind of brownish, dingy, reddish stems down at the base. Here's an example of a lot of those stems that I was talking about that are on the base of annual rye plants, especially near the end of their life cycle. It's just stemmy. It just doesn't have that vibrant green look to it compared to nice grass. See the tip of that sitting right next to it? All of this grass right here is vibrant green. You don't see the stems, but this you do. And when you pan back, you can tell in the lawn that it doesn't look as good as it should. And when you start getting seed heads on top, that really hinders the appearance as well. The grass that you see back here that's predominantly dingy looking is an annual ryegrass. Towards the end of an annual ryegrass's life cycle, it really starts putting on a lot more stems, stalks, and seed heads than it does leaves. So when you mow it, you're not really seeing hardly any leaves whatsoever anymore. It's just those brownish, dingy stems. Kikuyu grass is another grass type that you're gonna see that. Like you see over here in my neighbor's yard, you can see mower stripes. But these aren't the good mower stripes. Every single time that they cut the grass, they cut it low enough so that the green leaf material is fully removed, but yet we see the brown stockiness of the grass underneath. This is very apparent, especially in places where the ground isn't exactly flat. Every time it gets cut low, all of the green leaves are cut off, leaving only the stems showing. If this grass was allowed to grow up tall, and then it was only cut back a little bit, all of these brown stems would never be seen. They would be deep under the leaf canopy. This is literally one of the main reasons why St. Augustine grass is also cut extremely tall, kind of like tall fescue is cut extremely tall. St. Augustine has very substantial stolons that sit above the soil surface. So if you cut too much of that leaf material off, it's not going to look like a green, vibrant, healthy lawn. Bermuda grass is very stemmy and stocky, especially as the season goes by. It's one reason why Bermuda grass is scalped so often, sometimes a couple times a year. You could take a weed eater all the way to the dirt to get rid of the stems, and then finally you have leaves growing back. Not exactly a stem, but if you run a turf type tall fescue or a Kentucky 31 tall fescue, these are bunch type grasses that have very large, very tall crowns. It's one reason why these grass types are typically mowed very high. If you cut all of the leaf material off, but you leave 1.5 inches on the bottom, almost all of it is brown because the crown of the grass plant is really dense, stocky. You rarely want to cut tall fescue low because you're going to cut all of the leaves off and only leave the brown crowns visible. Regardless of your grass type, one of the best ways to make sure that your grass doesn't look brown after you cut it is by simply cutting it taller. As an example, let's say for instance this grass, which obviously it's not, but if this grass was really tall and you don't like cutting your lawn very often, cut it way up high. Put the mower on the highest setting possible. For one, it's going to be really easy to cut through tall grass if you got your mower set high, as opposed to coming in once every 2 to 3 weeks and trying to cut it down to a normal grass height. If you're cutting it way down low, then that means you're cutting off all of the green leaf material on top and leaving just the stems visible underneath. Now, a third reason why your grass might look brown and dingy after you cut it has everything to do with the mower blade actually making the cuts. If a mower blade can come through and go over the grass, and it's sharp, and it can make a clean cut on the leaf tip, then the leaf tip is going to heal. It's going to repair itself quickly, and it's not going to be brown. So for instance, this grass plant right there, see how the tip of that was cut with a lawnmower? Now I'm going to pluck it so that we can see it up close, as if this isn't close enough. All right, here we go. I just put it on my pant leg. You see how the top of that blade, remember I just mowed my grass this morning. The top of that grass blade is kind of frayed. It's not a clean cut. Like if you took a pair of scissors and tried to cut that, it would be perfect right across. Just like when you cut paper. As this grass plant heal, I mean, this isn't going to because I plucked it, but if it was still in the ground, as this grass plant would heal, it would start having a little bit of a brownish, tannish tinge to the tip of it because it's dried out, kind of like this grass blade is. So if your lawnmower blade is not sharp, then it's going to cut the grass poorly. It's going to fray and shred the grass, and then what grass is still standing up is going to have this brown tip to it because essentially everything on the end of it has died during the post-mowing healing process. The solution to that is literally to tip your mower upside down, pull the lawnmower blade off, and sharpen it. I have videos about sharpening the mower blade yourself, although many small local repair shops will do the process for you. If you're doing it yourself, it really doesn't take more than 5 to 10 minutes every few weeks or so. Very easy. Overall, one of the best ways to make sure that your lawn looks its best after you mow it is to do all 3 of these things. If you can run over your lawn with a power rake and remove as much of the dead material as you can, if it's not breaking down fast enough in the lawn, mow your grass a little bit taller so that you always have more leaf material sitting on top. Sharpen your mower blades so that they don't fray the leaf tip every time you mow, leaving you with that brown layer of damaged grass at the top. Then in the long run, really for the rest of the year, your lawn is really going to look fantastic every single time you cut the grass. Throw in some fertilizer to thicken up every leaf blade, thicken up every grass plant. At the appropriate time of the year, put a little bit of grass seed down to cover up any dirt that may be exposed. And every single time you mow, your lawn should look better than it did before you mowed. Now here, I've scalped my lawn. I've cut all of the leaf material off, and that's why it's not very vibrant right now. So I'm going to take this opportunity and run my power rake all over the lawn to pick up a lot of those, as many of those stems as I can, so I can bag them off in the mower, and then I'm going to let all of the leaf canopy grow back up tall. It's going to look spectacular for the rest of the season. If you do want to learn more about these machines and how they work, typically they cost between $100 and $200 online, depending on the brand that you buy. I've personally owned 3 different brands. I have an entire guide to using these machines to make your lawn look its very best. I'm going to link to it right up here in the corner. Free resources down in the description below. Take a look at those 2.